Ready in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going live. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Good Morning Show with Candy Bryan. I am so excited that you are here this morning. Those of you who are just tuning in, those of you who said, you know what, I'm going to set my alarm and I'm going to get up so we can have this conversation. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I know this is early for many of us, but I want to give everyone a few moments to tune in and kind of set up the agenda for today. This is the first time we're doing this. So Talk Tuesday is normally dedicated to hearing from everyone out there and getting everyone to chime in and talk, right, on Talk Tuesday. But we've had so much going on, all of us, and I know that everyone has been thinking about, has been stressed out about, has been losing sleep over everything that's happening in our country. And so Talk Tuesday today is dedicated to a town hall format, and we want to have some conversation around what's been happening. So if you're just tuning in, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate that. Hey, Shelly, good morning. I want to give you some instruction. I know all of you have some really good comments and feedback and insights to share, but we can't see them unless you go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. I'll say that again, it's StreamYard.com/Facebook. And then we can see your comments if you opt in, but you have to go there first. So, I really want to start with just a little bit of a news update, if I can get to it. It looks like there have been like 40 cities that are on curfews, and we know that the riots have erupted around the country. And so for those of you that are tuning in from other cities, we'd love to hear from you. What is happening in your city? What is the the climate feel like? What is actually going on in the streets, in the city, in the town where you live? I want to say good morning to a few folks. So when you come on, you got to say good morning. That's your entry point to the Good Morning Show. You can't come on without saying good morning to all of us. So we're going to say some good mornings. Good morning, Mr. Jones. Good morning, Ronald Jones. Thank you for being on with us this morning. Shelly's here. We have some folks that are just now tuning in. So today is Talk Tuesday, but it is Town Hall Tuesday. And what is a town hall? It's really just a place where you can come and talk about what are you feeling? What are your thoughts? What with what's going on right now? What is on your mind? And of course, our show is dedicated to being a place of faith in the morning. So I have a disclaimer. I always put a disclaimer out there: no hate speech, no profanity. You'll be kicked off the broadcast. So what we do on Talk Tuesday, however, is that we have a link for you to join live. So if you are going to join live, go to the post this morning. It is right on my profile page. Or it should be within the post here that is for this live stream. If you go into the post, you will see that there is a link to come and join live. Now I have someone saying that they couldn't see to get in. Oh, you're on YouTube. Hey, Shelly. She's on YouTube. That's awesome. You have to be on Facebook in order to let me know that you are coming on live. So let's see and make sure that there's some folks that are coming on here live. Well, good morning. When we started out the broadcast just a few seconds ago, I said, please let me know what city you're calling from or tuning in from. Oh, and let me make sure that I've got the right link to give to people. Let me know where you're tuning in from and what is the climate where you are. Have there been riots? Do you guys have curfews? What is going on? How are you feeling? How is your family dealing with it? And let me make sure that we've got our folks that are going to be on have the right link. Let's take a look. So if you go to my post, and anyone can go to my post and test this out, go check out my page and let me know if there is a link there for you to join live. It should be there. I'm going to see if everyone has that link. And we'll get these folks on this morning because we've got lots of folks coming on this morning. All right. So thank you, Shelly, for watching from YouTube. I wonder what the experience is like watching from YouTube. We're normally just from Facebook. So I had a discussion this week with some friends that, let me know that we definitely need to talk about some things, especially when my friends are, just heartbroken and they're having a hard time even processing. So I want to make sure that we have a safe place to actually talk about this. And so I'm sending out the link to a few folks, and it looks like they're finally making it in. And I want to say good morning to everyone because I think you might have had the wrong link. So I'm going to go and I'm going to bring in a good friend of mine from Chicago. Silas is here in the waiting room, but I am going to go change the link out there, you guys, because I think that I gave the wrong link, Silas. I can see that. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing, Candy?
I'm doing good. Good morning. Good morning. Look, we have some folks coming in on the town hall. And look, I want you guys to turn your camera sideways. Thank you. Thank you, Silas. I'm going to go fix the post. See, that's what happens when you do work for others. Now you use StreamYard. You end up sending the wrong link out. I have the link from a wonderful event that I got to participate in Saturday with the 530 Scholars. And I have one of the founders here from Chicago with me, Silas Green. But it looks like people are finally getting the right link. So I'm going to share this with everyone here. Good morning, Gerald. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I apologize if I had the wrong link on there, you guys. So I had several people say, I want to chime in. I want to be able to share my heart. This space is a safe space. It is obviously a place where people of faith can come together and have a discussion. So I always put the disclaimer out there because some people will come across this page brand new and not know that it is a place of a faith-based discussion, or at least a place to come from. We're coming from a place of positivity, and how do we get to an answer? This is not the place to rant and have hate speech. And I don't think that anyone that I call friend is in that boat anyway. So we have some more folks coming on here in the town hall. Good morning, Pastor Kevin. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, you're on mute, so you have to unmute. So make sure you guys unmute before you start talking. So let me introduce some of the folks in our town hall here and what a town hall really is for the setup, how it works. So basically, I have a timer so that we have a lot of passionate people on with us this morning. And when we're passionate, we definitely can be long, right? So I'll make sure that I keep time. If you see me, just kind of raise my church finger here. I'll give you the church finger. If I raise my finger, you'll just know. Just keep an eye on the camera that we're just about time. But 2 minutes, like a minute and a half to 2 minutes. Begin sharing your thoughts. I'm going to go around and kick us off with a question. But then also you can give your insight and your other thoughts in addition to the question, and we'll just kind of go round robin. I can call on you, so we have clarity and we have organization. But I want to introduce some of the folks that are on with me. If you're just tuning in, thank you so much for tuning in to Town Hall Tuesday. This is the Good Morning Show. It's your place of faith in the morning. I'm your host, Candy Bryan. With me, I have founders of, Silas Cameron went out, but he'll be right back. I have the founder of the 530 Scholars. They are dedicated to children in Chicago and increasing, I want to say, test scores, their whole outlook on life. Silas, tell us a little bit about the organization briefly, and welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. I'm one of the co-founders of the 530 Scholars. We make sure the kids stay in the top 5 percentile, reading and math, NWEA, and we make sure they score 30 on the ACT or the SAT equivalent. So we push excellence in education because we know that they have to score in the top 5 percentile to get the opportunities that they want academically. So a lot of people want kids to, just to flourish academically. They're like, my kid doesn't have a choice but to go to college. But a lot of kids are going to college and strapping themselves with debt because they're not thinking early on about how much this is going to cost and how it's going to get paid for. So we make sure, how they say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So we make sure that they're in the top 5% every year. So when it's time to go to college, they score the 30 on the ACT. Our scholars go to college for free. And the unique thing about our organization is not like a whole bunch of teachers or, trained educators. Mm-hmm. We train parents to be the resource to do it for their own kids.
And that's what I absolutely loved. And I got to be a part of your yearly conference. It was 5:30, May the 30th. And it was one of the most phenomenal events, and you did it all online with panelists. And then at the end, the children got the awards. It was just really special, you guys. So thank you, Silas Green, for being my guest here this morning. We also have someone that I've known for many years, and we got the chance to work together, and he's an awesome man of faith, Gerald Gamara. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. How are you? Thank you for having me on the show. I'm very honored to be here with everyone here, and I'm just glad to be here and speak on this topic.
Absolutely. And you had a wonderful post that I read the other day, and I just thought, I know you've got some thoughts on the topic, on this matter, and I wanted to have your voice here. And you also shared this with a friend. And so we have Pastor Kevin Simmons with us as well. Pastor Kevin, tell us where you're tuning in from, what your church is.
Absolutely. Good morning. Can you hear me, first of all?
We sure can.
Awesome. Good morning. Thank you for having me as well. My name is Kevin Simmons. I'm a pastor here in Orlando, Florida. Central Florida. Our church is Love Gospel Worship Center, and I'm one of a group of pastors who serve here locally in the community. And I'm a husband, proud husband, father of 3, and just really passionate about doing what God has called us to do, particularly in this season right now that we're in. There's a need for healing. There's a need for reconciliation. And so our ministry is called to impact this world with God's love and supernatural power. And so I'm honored to have you to be a part of this discussion today.
And thank you so much for getting up early. You're probably an early riser anyway, but thank you for making the extra effort to be on the show. And I have some other folks that will be backstage and we'll bring you guys on and off camera. So just know if you're off camera, you're still kind of on camera. So be ready. If I go back to a shot of you on camera, you'll just know that you'll come off and on the screen, but you can see that, of course, from your device. And so today, our town hall discussion, and oh, we have Angeline now. Hey, Angeline. Angeline is, hi, how are you? She's a viewer. She's in the financial industry. She's been watching and supporting the show for a while now. Thank you, Angeline. And she's like, hey, you know, I have something to share as well. So again, if you are tuning in, we want to see your comments. Where are you tuning in from this morning to the Good Morning Show? What is the climate in your area, in your town, in your city? Have there been riots? Are you guys on curfew? What are your feelings about that? And how is your family? How are you and your family dealing with this? Most of all, okay, let me check my messages to make sure there are no more messages. Yes, okay, thank you. All right, so I want to kick it off with a question, and we'll start with Silas. You were the first to join us this morning. So the title of the town hall was Racism, Riots, and the Road to Restoration. And I always have been trained to think with the end in mind. When I'm thinking about where is the place that we're trying to get to, we're going to have some time here to talk about our hurts and our feelings and even our experiences. Oh my goodness, I have a friend she's trying to get on now. She's white. She asked me this week, just this week, and she said, Candy, you know, I haven't even asked you about your experience. We've been friends for, oh my gosh, like at least 10 years, and I've never asked you about your experience as a Black woman. Talk to me. And I was like, whoa, first of all, you know, that I can come and I shared some things with her that absolutely shocked her. And she's like, I never knew what your experience was like. And we work together. So in the corporate world and just, you know, out in the street. And so that was important to me and I always have had friends around me of many cultures, as you can see this morning on the broadcast. But that was a healing conversation. And that was just between friends. So we're going to talk about our feelings. But I more so want to talk about, are there solutions and answers that we're not talking about? Now, I want to say something hey, good morning. Mr. Wright is with us. He's a professor of African American Studies. And I want to, please correct me, sir, if I'm wrong. Is that with Valencia Community College?
I am a part of the Africana Studies program at UCF. And I also teach African American Humanities at Valencia Community College.
Valencia. Go Knights. Go Valencia. Any Knights on here from the town hall people? Any Knights?
No.
Even Chicago. We got Chicago representing for the Knights here.
That's right.
But I know Dr. Wright through his wonderful wife, Griselle, and she's like, I can't make it on, but my husband will be on. So, sir, we're having a conversation, and we really want to have a conversation around solutions. So for everyone watching, this is not a debate. This is you share what's on your heart. And even if there are some disagreements, you know, there is some commonality even amongst where we're disagreeing. But the ultimate goal is, what are some of the answers? What are some of the things that we need to be doing as individuals? So I'm going to start with you, Silas, and you have about a minute and a half to just kind of get your initial thoughts together here. When you think about what's happening and you think about being just individuals, here we are, all are individuals. I don't think there's anyone here who's actually in a political office making policies, but I think we're all influencers. Am I right when I say that? No one here is actually in office.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do? What can we do, the common person, the people who are watching right now?
All right. So what can we do to just let me clarify the question. What can we do to change the violent nature, or what can we do to make our situation better? What can we do to what, Candy?
What can we do to make things better? And by things, that's like a huge can of worms, right? But what can we do to even maybe start the process of changing some of these policies? I don't know if it's within the police departments. I don't even know where to start, Silas. I just want to have a conversation that is, what can we do to make things change?
All right. So, you know, just by the nature of who I am and the work that I do and just my core beliefs, I feel like the thing that we could do to make things better is be our own leadership. So we need to be the leadership in our community. And that does not end with the political office. We need to raise our kids, and we need to pour into our kids. We had a board meeting yesterday, and my mom was talking about how little our ancestors and our elders had conversations with our young people to tell them, you know, what happened 40 years ago in America. Why do I have this position that I have? You know, when it comes to other races, why do they have the thoughts that they have? Who are these people who are making decisions, right? So in our election just now, as soon as the election comes, we start vetting people. We start going into their past and seeing policies that they passed 20 years ago, policies that they passed 30 years ago, and then we find out who they are. But not just presidential candidates, but the people around us. They have a history, and America has a history of racial tension. They have a history of segregation. They have a history of throwing bricks at protesters. And some of the people who are making decisions were throwing bricks at protesters. They were going out with their parents and stoning Dr. Martin Luther King, and they were hearing from their parents how Dr. King was uppity. But then when the culture shifted and it became less popular to voice those concerns, they had to keep those feelings bottled up inside them, and they still feel the same way. So now we're in like this post-racial society where we don't want to discuss race, and people are saying they don't see color and all that stuff, you know, but they still feel the same way. And we have to understand that those people are not gone, right? Those people have just stopped sharing their feelings openly. And without sharing those feelings openly, we don't know that they feel that way. We don't have discussions. They segregate, but they don't. But they live in the same communities, right? So we have to just train our youth to be the leaders. We have to understand who we are as a people. We have to understand who they are as a people. And everybody has to be honest, because one generation removed, sometimes people are like, oh, yeah, I never did anything to hurt Black people, you know, and it's not just not hurting us, it's also helping us, helping to correct some things that have happened in the past. And if that's not happening, then I'm afraid that we don't get better, and we just have to segregate and, you know, and just deal with the consequences.
Wonderful thoughts. I thank you for that, Silas, so much. I heard you say that you can go on and off camera, so we may have to switch you on and off as you guys answer and give your thoughts. But I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Wright. Mr. Wright, what are your thoughts on, you know, how do we ever move forward towards change? And that was really awesome, Silas. Thank you for that.
I think the first thing we have to do is educate ourselves about our past so that we know where we've come from, who we are, and who we want to be. And the second thing that we can do to change things, because we're a people without a lot of economic clout, we can exercise our right to vote. And we wouldn't be here in this situation today after witnessing, this is a no profanity session, right?
Absolutely not. Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking.
There are some words that need to be said, but after witnessing what we saw last night, which as a historian sickened me in the pit of my stomach.
Can you please share a little bit for those of us who are may have not seen the events of last night? And I want to say, for those of you who are watching, please post your comments. Again, no hate speech, no profanity, but put your comments. What are your thoughts on what's happening right now? If you have tried to get into the link to join us, yes, stay backstage. I posted a brand new link. I apologize, it was the wrong link at first, but the new link is there and you can now chime in, but just be patient backstage as I rotate people off camera. Sorry, Mr. Wright, back to you.
What happened last night was almost the beginning of martial law in this country. It was almost the beginning. Well, we're past the beginning, but this was an open affront to First Amendment rights. It's an open affront on the Constitution. What this man did was heinous. I'm about to use my my bad words,
Okay,
but
Don't use the bad words.
A man who who the last time he set foot in that church was for, I believe, H.W. Bush, George Bush's funeral.
Okay.
And he was a jerk when he was in there. And he hasn't been to that church again. He might have gone one time, maybe he like did a fake thing on one of the holidays, maybe on Christmas. But he hasn't set foot in a church. And that man has never read a Bible. I can tell by the way he holds the Bible, he has never read a Bible. I don't even read the Bible. And I still read the Bible more than that man does.
Yeah. Oh, you know what, Mr. Wright, thank you for being respectful. I appreciate that so much. And I'm going to come back to you as we go to the second question. But I want to introduce one of our next guests. Justin Williams is he's a treasure in the community here in Central Florida. And I was moved to tears watching your video the other day. He is the general manager of the Grand Bohemian Hotel, downtown Orlando. I believe you have a prominent position in the community. We see your heart to give. We watch your fun videos, and then as our country started going through this nightmare, we watched your heart talk about how you feel as a Black man and a man who you have achievements. You give to the community. You work with the youth. Justin, would you please introduce yourself to the audience this morning on the Good Morning Show? We have established that to everyone watching, this is a no hate zone. This is a profanity zone, and I'm not offended if any of you jump off or drop off at all, because this is the place that I've created as a platform. But we wanted to know a little bit about you, Justin, and just some of your thoughts this morning.
Sure. As you said, I'm Justin Williams, General Manager here at the Grand Bohemian Hotel in Orlando. I also have part ownership in a restaurant locally here in town, McCanny, as well as a construction company. So I have quite a few things that are going on in the community. And just the other day, my heart was so touched by everything that was going on that it spent me into a state of confusion, to where it's like my whole world was, as I know it, was flipping upside down. And, to think that, you can achieve certain things in your life. And, where I come from College Park, Georgia, the South Side. I did not grow up as the way that my kids are growing up today. And so sometimes when you separate yourself from that, you have to take yourself mentally back there to understand how you got to where you are in the first place. And this just really kind of hit it home that when I'm still looked at, no matter what those achievements are, some of those negative powers that be, they still despise you, they still hate you. So you have to always keep yourself on guard. Just this morning, my son, my wife was watching Facebook, and she's looking at, a lot of the things that are playing out. And my 10-year-old, he says to me, "Daddy, are you going to be arrested and killed?" And to have to be able to justify to your 10-year-old that, no, just me going to work, I'm not going to get killed. But I can't say that. I don't know. So, I was listening to some of your other comments about how do we change this. Yes, we need to focus on the presidency and attacking that, but we also need to focus on the parts that are locally. Who is your police chiefs? Who is your sheriffs? Like, start looking and saying, who are the qualifiers? What are the qualifications for people that are being in these roles? This is what we need to start taking a look at, because deep-rooted racism, to be quite honest, I don't think we're ever going to get away from it. But we can suffocate it. So we can make them not breathe by allowing them to make sure that the rules and the processes are in place to where they don't have as much power as they have right now.
I have to tell you that hit a chord, I'm sure, with everyone else. We can suffocate it. Justin, I hope that you can hang with us here for another 3 to 4 minutes as we rotate camera shots and we get involvement from everyone here. Very powerful. Thank you, Mr. Wright. Thank you, Justin, for sharing those thoughts. I'm going to kick it over to Pastor Kevin Simmons, who's pastor here of the local church. What about the church? The people are the church. It's not necessarily about the church building, but Justin just pointed out something very important, which is we can locally, at the local level, at the grassroots level, start to be influencers and impact change at the police chief level, the sheriff level, the local politicians in our district. What is the church's stance, and what is the church doing?
To be quite frankly, I think the church hasn't been doing nearly enough. I'm so thankful for this platform and this ability to speak. I haven't spoken publicly about the situation. I've been very angry and saddened and disappointed. And the Bible says, be quick to listen and slow to speak and slow to anger. And so before speaking out, I went to God to say that very question, what do? I feel helpless because I don't have the ability. I'm not in public office. It seems like these problems are much bigger than I'm able to accomplish. And I believe what I heard back was from 2 Corinthians 5:18. That was an encouragement to be reconciled to God. And those of us who know God through Christ have a ministry of reconciliation, that in this time frame that it's our responsibility to bring healing and to bring restoration. I think that a nation is made up of communities, and communities are made up of families, and families are made up of individuals. And so that question that you asked is a very important question that we introspect and say, as an individual, what do I need to do? And for me personally, it's I had to get on my knees and I had to pray and ask God for help. My dad says that I do 3 things every single day. I pray, I work, and I fight. I pray and ask God for direction and for guidance and for leadership. I work in terms of service, that I have a responsibility to service to my family and to mankind. And then I fight, not against flesh and blood, but against the temptation to be mediocre, the temptation to be silent. And so I have that responsibility. And as I do that, as it was mentioned, then we have the responsibility to model that for my family, who my family goes into the community. And that's where the church is. The church is, God says not to be reconciled to a church or to a pastor or to a denomination, but be reconciled into him. And I think in many cases, the church has had people be reconciled and joined to them, to be a denomination or to a man or to a system. And we've lost sight of who we're supposed to be reconciled to. And so my responsibility is to repent and to ask God for wisdom. And as he's given me the ability to be proud of who I am as a Black man, as a father, as a husband, and to be able to serve as I pray and I hear from him, to be able to serve my family and to serve and to be able to bring that ministry of reconciliation. It says in 2 Corinthians that we not only have a ministry, a service of reconciliation, but we have a message of reconciliation. And that message is not my agenda, but it's God's agenda. And his agenda is love and healing and restoration. And so I think the church has to really get back to the roots of what we're supposed to be about. It's not about gathering people together. It's not about raising offerings. It's not about building up a denomination, but it's about reconciling people back to wholeness and health.
We have a couple. I couldn't agree with Justin more and Teach Pastor. I really appreciate those of you who are watching and are leaving your comments. Usually takes some folks in the morning a little bit of time to join us. So not everybody's an early riser like all of you, but thank you for tuning in. If you're just now joining us for the Town Hall Tuesday, this is really supposed to be Talk Tuesday, and that's what we're doing. This is the Good Morning Show. It is your place of faith in the morning, but this morning is your place to come and have the conversation. So with me, we're going to bring some of the ladies into the conversation here. Thank you so much for your patience. And gentlemen, if you're backstage, just be patient. We'll have one more question before we close out the broadcast this morning. And I want to welcome Leona, and I'm going to bring on as well another brave young lady who is on with us, Angeline Rhodes. So we have some lady representation here. And I'm going to toss it over to Gerald. You've been waiting so patiently for you to wrap us up with this question is, what are your thoughts on what the individual can take or the people of faith can take? What steps are we needing to take right now to take action?
Well, right now, first of all, a little bit of background about me. You know, I'm from Chicago originally.
Wow.
I'm a descended Mexican and Peruvian, born here in the United States. Unfortunately in Chicago, my dad's family has a business. They've experienced your windows broken and looting there. And it's just sad, that it's come to this. I can't pretend to say I understand how everybody on this panel feels. Obviously, I'm not Black. My wife is Puerto Rican Black. So, I've experienced some things, right? But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know what it is to be in anybody's shoes. I can only speak from my own experience and the stuff that I've been through myself. I have been assaulted by police before. I was even planted a gun once, and of course I was in situations where I may have been with the wrong crowd, and also my own behavior may have had something to do with it. Doesn't mean that it was right. So I think here moving forward, I think, some of these protests need to happen. I think there is an abuse of power, an abuse of wealth as well. And this is what's causing some of the issues, apart from race. And how we can present ourselves different, what we can do different is, people are looking at us, right, as leaders in different areas. I do some leadership in my church as well. And how we react to this is how they are going to follow in. If we think certain things are okay, they're going to think certain things are okay. And it's hard because you have emotions involved in there. And, I can be a little bit emotionally immature, shall we say, at times, and want to lash out on certain things. And it just brings me back to what is God looking for out of me as a man of God? And what is my church looking out of? How can I bring us together? And I think one of the things that I've experienced the most living in a town where I was a very small minority at one time, now not anymore, is learning from each other. Right, we're learning from each other, and I think a lot of the racism that we're experiencing is out of ignorance. They don't. Some groups of people don't know what the other groups of people are actually like. And the way they're presenting us in the media, like, before this, as being a Mexican American, child traffickers, right? We're drug dealers, we're related to the cartel. They're feeding into this, what's causing this separation amongst us. They're going to see us the way they present us on TV and in the media. And I think it's our job as people, besides all the protests that we're doing, is to show other people who we really are. Who we really are as people. When working with you, Candida, one of the things that I saw, right, growing up in Chicago, I've never seen so many educated Black Americans all in one area in positions of leadership. I was really shocked and amazed, and I felt blessed that I was around people. Wow, this is who we really are. We're not what you see on TV. We're not the ones that are always trying to, fight the police or selling drugs or these images of us with our pants, halfway down. That's not who we really are, and it's not to say that all those people that we're seeing there are all bad. They just need the same kind of guidance that we at one point or another got to get to where we're at right now.
That's really good.
So,
I want to make sure that I get them. Go ahead.
When Justin was sharing what he said, I'm still emotional about it. Yeah. Do I know if I'm going to be alive? He said, that's a valid reason. My kids, obviously they're a mixture between my skin tone and my wife. And here in St. Cloud, they went through some difficult times too. And I said, look, take what you can. You're here in this town for a reason. I brought you here for a reason because I want you to have the same advantages that I had. My mom, she threw me into an area in Chicago in my high school years, my last 2 high school years, where I was like 1 out of 4 Mexican kids. It was like 2 Black kids. They were very well off. We weren't as well off as they were. And it was very challenging for me. But I looked at so many different things and tried to embrace what I could from that community. And I challenged them to do the same.
I would like to get some of the ladies to chime in here too. Gerald, first of all, I didn't even know your history. We worked together. I didn't know what you were descendant of, the situation back in Chicago. We have Silas on as well from Chicago. So very interesting. And I'm glad that you were transparent in sharing what you shared this morning. I want to turn it over to Angeline and then Leona. Good morning, Leona. I'll have you introduce yourself in just a second. This is our town hall. Everyone, we only started with 1 question, right? And we're already on 20 minutes. So we're doing good. But we have 1 more question and we'll close out the broadcast this morning. I wish this was a space where we had an hour together in an actual town hall setting, and that we actually could get together in work groups and work towards a plan of action. But we at least have the ability to be virtual. And certainly for any of you who are stepping out there to take action, I would love for you to post in the comments, what are you doing within your realm of power to be an influence in your community to make change happen. But I want to get some comments from Angeline and then Leona. And ladies, if you could keep it to about a minute or a minute would be great, so we can go back around with our second question.
Okay, thanks, Candy. I want to talk from a mother's point of view, because I think for me, that's probably the most impactful area when it comes to this. Because I'm Jamaican living in America, I didn't grow up in an environment of racial discrimination. And over the past week, I've personally felt like a woman with no country, if you want to put it like that, where I have decided to leave my country. And now I'm here and almost hearing that I don't belong. That in addition to the reality that my kids are growing up in this environment was what really got me to the point where I shut down. I was hurting in my soul, Candy, so bad that for days I just cried and prayed and cried and prayed. And I can't begin to imagine the pain that people who've been living here this long have been feeling concerning this. And none of this has, can I say, directly impacted my family, probably my husband, because he is an African-American police officer. So again, we're straddling lines here where he's a police officer, but he is also Black. But the thing that really got me was the first time I had to have that conversation with my 11-year-old daughter. Wow. And it bothered me so much because as a mom, it is my responsibility to not just prepare her for what she's going out to face, but also let her understand that in the middle of all of this, you are valuable and you are who God created you to be. But I need you to be aware of that, but trying to balance it at the same time with not everything that happens is as a result of the color of your skin. So I know personally, it's just been an internal, literally an internal battle to the fact, yesterday, I practically spent all day in bed, just worn out emotionally because my soul was hurting so bad because of what was going on. And yesterday, I got an opportunity to actually walk in the protest in Kissimmee. And I remember my brother-in-law saying to me, don't do that because we don't know what's going to happen. And I just needed to do it for me. And I think at the end of the day, we have to remember this. The one thing that came forcefully to my mind yesterday was this. We have to remember that we're not just doing this for ourselves. Our forefathers didn't just walk for themselves. They didn't just fight for themselves. And if we take the perspective out of the fact that we're fighting for our children and the next generation, then we're going to lose this battle. Yeah, we're going to lose it. And that's one of the things that I really want to bring to the table this morning. We have to live for the next generation. Yeah. We have to live for our children. The stereotypes that I've heard just being here has really, really opened my eyes to a lot of things this past week, because there's certain words that are being used that we should not be accepting as people. And one of those simple words are minority, because the very essence of the word says that you are less than I am, and we are not. But we accept it and embrace it from people who say it because society says that. You understand what I'm saying? The stereotypes, we have to break those mental barriers. We have to break the stereotype of people putting us in categories where we live are considered ghettos instead of just a community. All of these things are stereotypes that have been so engraved in our community that we accept them as normal when they're not supposed to be normal, because we can't move forward unless we are empowered. Unless we get to the point where our mentality is enhanced as a people, because at the end of the day, nobody else is going to do it but us. And we have to understand where we are and where we need to be.
Angeline, thank you so much. I see the comments and I'm trying to get your comments posted up here on the broadcast as quickly as I can. They're coming, they're flying in. Angeline, thank you for that. I can see some head nods and some agreement there. Leona, would you introduce yourself? And then we're going to go back around the horn, starting with Justin with our next question. Leona, introduce yourself to everyone and give us some of your unique perspectives. We're talking about what can we do as individuals to impact change or to start the conversation towards change.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I am in the business, arena. So my name is Leona Carter. I'm an international empowerment speaker, best-selling author, talk show host. And so what I'm finding is I'm a part of several business groups, and most of them are led by Caucasian women leaders. And so what I have found in the last 72 hours is these leaders are trying to address their very large community. We're talking over 50,000 in the community. They're trying to address the community, and they have failed. And they failed because of the lack of rapport and relationship that they did not have in place. Several of these communities have taken down their posts, put up apology posts, right? And say, you know what, I need to learn better, I need to do better, and things like that. And so I'm a mother of 6, and my husband and we've been, married for 25 years. And a few years ago, before I became a public speaker, I was running for public office. And so I have ran, did the campaign trail with my 2 sons. And just like you have to have the talk for police, how to encounter police with your Black sons, I had to talk to my 2 Black teenage tall 6-foot boys of how to conduct themselves with me on the campaign trail while we are knocking on houses in the neighborhood. And so no matter what arena, the conversation never stops. And so I employ to my Caucasian leaders to build relationship in the African-American community. The reason why you don't know what to say, or you're afraid to say anything because you don't want to say the wrong thing, is because you're not used to saying anything. You're not used to doing anything. And so now you're leading this huge community and you really don't know what to do or what to say. So you need to start building relationship in the African-American community now.
Thank you so much, Lena, and thank you for jumping in last minute. I know I reached out to you last minute because I saw your video, and I was like, man, she's got a voice, and she's hitting on some topics that are so, the things we don't talk about are, we work with people every day of different cultures, and until something like this happens, we don't really know how people feel.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one who can jump into someone's brain and really know what's going on in their heart. And so we start to see as people are scrambling to kind of accommodate or apologize, or we can see those things coming out. I wanted to get last thoughts from our roundtable. We're going to go through everyone who's been on this morning. First of all, thank you all. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your voice, but I just want to turn it over to you. What are some of your thoughts? What's on your heart? What hurts the most? This is just your final thoughts for the morning and leaving someone with maybe a call to action. Justin, I'll start with you. What are just some of your thoughts for the day today? Oh, I think you might be on mute or might have frozen.
You might have frozen.
We'll give him a second to see if the screen unfreezes. So does everyone understand what my ask is give your final thoughts? Because I asked a question, so you had to really tailor your answers to what my question was. But really what I want you to do is take a few seconds here as we're wrapping, and you say what is on your heart. No hate speech, no profanity, please. But I think this is going in the right direction. So thank you all for doing this. All right, so Silas, we'll start with you. You do have a minute, or less than a minute. I'd like to keep it to like 45 seconds, but give me your final thoughts for the broadcast.
My final thoughts is welcome to the red pill. So people have just totally just been privileged in our community, in other communities, and they've just lived their personal life. The first question was like, what can we do as individuals? What I really wanted to say is we have to stop living it as individuals, because as long as we're straight, a lot of times we don't believe other people when they talk about their oppression. And if it does not affect us, we don't do anything. Other communities don't speak up on our behalf. The middle class and upper middle class, the wealthy in our community don't speak up for the poor. So we have to stop. We have to stop acting as individuals first. Believe people when they talk about oppression, because what we're going to do is we're going to ignore it until it reaches our doorstep. And it's coming, because the more they can oppress without ramifications, then the more comfortable they get doing it. So that police officer didn't think he did anything wrong because we allow it to happen. So stop acting as individuals. Believe people when they talk about oppression, and it's not a debate when people are talking about how they've been wrong and how they've been oppressed. And stop trying to be so intelligent that we have to always say, wait till the facts come out. I like to be a critical thinker and analyze. This country was built on slavery. This country is who they are. They've always been who they've been. So as long as if we could read a book, then we know what they on. And it did not change. So we just have to believe them when they tell us who they are the first time.
I want to reintroduce everyone to Silas Green. He's the founder of the 530 Scholars. They work their butts off to make sure that young people, students in Chicago, are able to pass their ACT, SAT, whatever tests are out there right now, but also that they are getting these students into Ivy League colleges, are helping these students to achieve dreams that they never might have thought were possible, and even to be the first of their generation to go to college. So for your service to the community, Silas, we say thank you. Thank you for doing that for all the children there. And we want to know when you're coming to Orlando. So let me know when you're going to.
We're already there.
All right, Silas, thank you so much for joining. We're going to go around the horn. And Justin, you're back. Thank you so much. So what we wanted to do was get everyone's final thoughts. Just this is an open forum. You share your heart and even a call to action if that's what you want to do.
Well, this is a really, really tough time for everyone. And, I just think that I know it sounds very cliche to say everyone needs to stick together. But if anything more than right now, we need to stick together. Coming from Atlanta, where I saw a community filled with Black lawyers, Black doctors, judges, record executives. When I moved from there at the age of 18, I didn't realize that my world was any different until I moved to Marco Island, Florida. And I saw that I was the only Black person on the island, literally. But it gave me a confidence because of my surroundings and the support system that I had in Atlanta to have the utmost confidence. So we have to make sure that our people have the utmost confidence, the utmost knowledge, and we hold each other accountable to show each other that, so we can get through this, because this is not over. It won't be over if we change someone out of the office immediately. Right. It's just not going to happen. So we have to be there for each other and mobilize mentally as well as physically.
And Justin, talk about the organization that you're a part of as you're impacting the lives of youth as well, just like Silas. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I work very, very closely with the city of Orlando on the Paramore Kids Zone, as well as Man Up Mentoring that's here that services a lot of the urban areas. But we do everything from talking to the kids, helping them with business development. Paramore Kids Zone is great in the sense of they've taken this Black Bee honey and they're teaching kids the business. And so we actually took that honey, we infused it into some of our recipes to where we now have an award-winning cheesecake based off of a honey that's produced right here in the Paramore area. And so we brought the kids in, we sit them down, they have a 5-star meal, they get to have a 5-star experience and really just see what their hard work, where it can lead up to. So it's great to be able to show these kids that. That's not something that I had as I was growing up. The goal was to be able to work at Coca-Cola or Delta, and you made it. That was it when I was growing up. So now to be able to say, hey, look, you're part of a business that you've come up with a business plan, you've come up with the marketing and the social media campaigns, and now it's in a luxury property. It's great.
First of all, I love the cheesecake. Listen, I left the restaurant that day and I was like, this is the best cheesecake I've ever had. And then to hear the story that this originated with a business that's in Paramore. And for those of you watching from other areas, Paramore is a lower income area in Central Florida. But it is right across the street from our downtown entertainment, venues. And we all see that there's been gentrification happening, that the community is getting pushed back as more complexes. But I love the fact, Justin, that you are part of the process. You were right in the heart of downtown, and you're also not afraid to speak out. And so we want to just keep encouraging you to be that voice We need your voice, and we so appreciate your service to the community. And I hope to have you on again soon. We're gonna have to do some. We have to take it lighthearted a little bit and do some cooking with Chef. We want Chef to come back too, and just talk about the great things that the Grand Bohemian is doing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Have a great day. We appreciate your time, sir.
You too.
All right, we're going to go around the horn. Mr. Wright, you've been so patient. Thank you so much. And we want to hear from you. What are your, this is your random thoughts and even a call to action if you have one.
I hate calls to action. I'm the last person to join anything. I'm the last person to start anything. But listening to these gentlemen speak, and not only the gentlemen, but the ladies as well, the mothers. I'm not a parent, I'm an uncle. I'm a professional uncle. I don't have to deal with what y'all have to deal with. But I can tell as you are telling your stories about addressing your children about what they're going to face when they become of that age and that size and they leave home. You are speaking from a position of experience. You are trying to tell them, you're trying to warn them or advise them about what you've experienced and what it has felt like for you, and you don't want that to happen to your child. And I guess I'm getting sentimental in my old age, but I was telling my wife the other day about an experience I had when I was 17 years old and I was working at the Hollywood Bowl. And I've told this story. I'm like, what year is this? 2020. I'll be 63 this year. I've told this story at least once a year ever since 1975. And it wasn't until this moment when I started telling it, I started crying, because I did not realize the trauma that experience had on me. And the experience was, me and my three friends were working at the Hollywood Bowl. We're dressed up. We're working as gatemen. We're leaving that night on our way home, going to Watson Compton. And we got pulled over making a left turn, and the cops pulled us out. And first thing I heard was a sound that went, which I knew was the sound of a shotgun pointed at the back of my head. And they sat us on the curb. They ordered us out of the car and they sat us on the curb. And as I was telling my wife that experience, the thing that got me the most was sitting there on the curb and knowing that my mother raised me right. And people were driving by the street and they're looking at me, and they're looking at James, and they're looking at Dana, three of the nicest young men that you'll ever meet. And they're learning, who are these people? Aside from that, 2 minutes later, a guy stuck a pistol in the back of my friend's head and said, "One move and you're dead. No profanity here." So what I'd like to do is to start some sort of page or something where maybe it's going to be a Facebook page. Anyone who's ever had that experience of being assaulted, because a lot of stuff goes unsaid. You know, we are people who sleep with our trauma. You know, we keep our trauma tucked deep down inside, and it doesn't emerge until, well, for most Black families, it doesn't emerge until mama gets Alzheimer's. And then we start to see the trauma. So I'm going to start a page, and anyone, please spread the word. Anyone who has ever experienced anything, and you've only mentioned it briefly, it's just, you know, it came out good because you're alive.
Yeah.
But you live with that trauma. So maybe I'm just going to have a memory page. If you've ever experienced anything, come on, tell your story.
Yeah. And Gerald, thank you for sharing your experience. That's what he's referring to. Professor Wright, you touched on something that a friend of mine said to me yesterday. And she said, you know, Candy, this has been going on obviously for so long, but in this last decade, the brutality has been happening, but it's just that we have the technology to send things viral now. And when you said what you said, it's been happening, and there's so much trauma that's happened in communities that people haven't talked about. There's things that we haven't seen because we don't know about them. But now that everyone's got a cell phone, we can see every single thing that people are willing to put on a live stream and that goes viral. And that's why now we're all outraged, because some of us have never even seen that. Some of us have never experienced what you experienced. And so I do think it's important that people talk about those experiences, and we will certainly be looking for your page if that's what you choose to do. And I'm sure there's a lot of healing. We had one of our favorite therapists, she was on this morning, but wasn't able to come on camera. We may have to have Shelly come back and talk about how to heal from the trauma, because I think that is key, and we don't talk about it enough. Whereas in our communities, in Black and Brown communities, we deal with this trauma, but it just sits there, or it's buried. And thank God for those of you who are on now and are believers, that there is a place of healing that we come to in God, where we know that there's deep healing that takes place. But for the majority of people around the country, they live with the trauma every day. And so, Professor Wright, we thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope you can come back, because this won't be the last discussion that we have in the month of June about this.
Thank you for having me.
It's been wonderful. Thank you, sir. All right, let's go around the horn. We've got Kristen. We didn't see you on camera, so I wasn't able to put you on camera. But when I mentioned to everyone that I had a friend who asked me about my experience as a Black woman, I actually have never had not one friend ever asked me that. And last week, she's part of the Good Morning Show. It's part of our Friday crew. This is a show that really is all about being unified. And so you see different people of different cultures, even on the comments. But Kristen also, had an emotional moment on the show last week. And so how has this impacted you, Kristen? And what conversations are you having with your friends?
For me, it's recognizing that I don't know what I don't know. Right? It's me, when you said no one's ever asked you that, it's because I never did either. Right? Like, I didn't consider that there was, I came from a place of, for the majority, I come from a place of believing the best about people, but I don't, I was watching Christine Caine with Dr. Anita, and I forget her last name. If you guys have a chance to go on Christine Caine's page and look at that interview, she's a PhD, a therapist. She's a pastor's wife. She's amazing. And the conversation that they had prompted me to reach out to you and to a couple of other friends and just say, I feel like I don't know what I don't know, and I want to hear. I want to stop talking, thinking I'm trying to solve something that I don't understand, and really genuinely just hold space and ask what your experience has been and grieve with you. And because what you said is true, like, you've been in all these different spaces. I've never even considered what your experience may have been in Pine Hills. Like, I never would have thought that would have been something you experienced. And to know that you did, I mean, everything inside of me wants to be like, let's go back. Like, I want to, let's go together. And but I also want to hear what's helpful, because what I loved, and I couldn't see the name because I'm on my phone, of the mother who's from Jamaica, who said,
she's right here. She's actually on with
you are amazing. And I appreciate that you said that the silos and the labels and what people see. I think Gerald said that too. Like, what we see is kind of what we believe, right? And so I'm like, the one thing I'm trying to do too is asking, like, what's helpful. And for me, I'm like, I'm gonna promote images that show the people that I know, right? And that is intelligent, beautiful, wonderful, like, hurt, angry, understandably, those things. But like, I'm not going to show destruction, right? Because that's not who I believe we are, that people, like, really people at the core are. And I don't think that that's what they ultimately want, is destruction. I think that, so like, the things that I'm doing is I'm asking questions. Sorry, go ahead.
No, something you said was so important that we talked about yesterday, which is, I was saying, I feel like when people were protesting, and obviously the riots and the protests, someone asked me to clarify the difference. I feel like I'm not educated enough to speak on the difference, a riot and a protest, and the definition thereof. But I do know that there were people speaking out on CNN camera with the microphone in their face, and part of it sounded like, we just want to be heard, but then we want to be heard and we want change to happen. And for you to say, you know, I just want to listen. None of us know the white experience, right? You were saying I don't know the Black experience, but I think that when we have people of different races on every side of the spectrum saying, I do want to hear. I don't want to sit here and say, well, I think this is the problem and this is what we need to do it when you don't have the experience of the other. Kristen, we really appreciate your comment this morning and thank you for staying on. Stay on with me if you can. We'll run over to Angeline for your final thoughts, and then Gerald and Pastor Kevin.
Let me just say real quick, thank you, Christine, for coming on. One of the things that came to my mind this morning, so one of my favorite movies is Ben-Hur. And I tear up every time I watch that show. I watch it at least twice a year. And one of the most powerful scenes in that movie was when Jesus was on the cross, and he reported that, Ben-Hur reported that his voice when he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, took the sword out of his hand. The reality of the matter is, if we don't forgive, we cannot move on. And that forgiveness is not just for us. I know what happened to these people. The woman who got shot in her apartment in New York, the father that was jogging with his son, you know, Floyd, all of these things were horrific. I understand that. But in the groom and the point of it is, if we do not forgive, we're not going to be able to live. We're not going to be able to heal. We're not going to be able to move on. And forgiveness is not for the other person. It's for us. It's so that we can heal. It's so that we can live. It's so that we can move on. It's so that we can get the power back in our own lives. And that is what a lot of people don't understand. Someone described unforgiveness as you drinking the poison, but expecting somebody else to die. If we don't forgive, we are not going to be able to fix anything, because at the end of the day, forgiveness gives us the power. It gives us the conscience. It's able to heal us psychologically, emotionally, mentally. I was just, before I came on here, Candy, and I didn't even remember that I promised you that I was going to be on here this morning. I was having my quiet time when I heard the chime come on the phone that you were about to start. And in that moment, I was literally crying out, God, for everyone. And I know you mentioned the church this morning, as the pastor is on here as well. I believe that's one of the roles for the church to do, because there are a lot of people, if you're not saved, you really don't understand the concept of forgiveness.
True.
The Bible talks about when Jesus was on the cross, and he said that the Roman soldier who nailed him to the cross, he stopped, literally stopped in his tracks and looked up and said, this has to be the Son of God. There's a certain acknowledgement that comes with forgiveness. And until we forgive, that's when we really touch those people's hearts who are looking at us in a different way. When we forgive, can you imagine the impact that it will have if one of Floyd's children, or even, I don't know if he was married, his parent or someone walks into that courtroom and say to this police officer, I know what you did was wrong, but I forgive you. You know what impact that would have to our very society, our very culture? That's the power that God has given us. And I believe that's where we need to start.
Angeline, you have us going, like starting a whole nother segment right now. If we all want to just jump on that and touch on that, I think what we'll do is we'll come back next Tuesday on Talk Tuesday, and we'll have this discussion around healing and forgiveness. And thank you so much, Angeline. I appreciate that. You can stay on camera with us. Gerald, any final thoughts before we wrap and with Pastor Kevin?
I think the most important thing is, showing others, right? Like I was mentioning, and educating ourselves as well, right? And teaching others, who we are as a group of people, right? And what we can do different. I really believe things are going to change from all this. Unfortunately, it had to come to this, but I have faith that things are going to change. Maybe not to the point where we want to see it,
Right.
but to a certain degree. And so I'm just going to continue to pray, for our country. I know some may not agree, even sometimes even for the leadership, right, and the people in our place, because whether it's impacted directly or not, we need to have them change their hearts too. So those are just my short final words. I think.
Thank you.
Following after Angeline, it's kind of hard because she really hit it. She really
said
hit it
a lot.
right on the nail there.
I like this comment from Sandra. She said, and she said, I could hear her voice because Kristen and I know Sandra and Gerald, I think you know Sandra too. We need Jesus. So she says, without him, we're a mess. What would happen if we welcome Jesus into our country, keep pushing him out? It's time for America to bless God. We talk about God blessing America. It's time for America. Thank you, Sandra. And thank you to all of you who stayed on for commenting. We're going to have final wrap here with Pastor Kevin. What are your final thoughts?
Well, again, thank you so much for having me. I've been so blessed by this discussion, just the diversity of thought. We've had educators, we've had mothers and fathers, entrepreneurs, and I think that the message of was said earlier that we can't take for granted the influence that we have. We may not consider ourselves as leaders, but the definition of leadership is simply influence. And we all have influence in some area. If it's only in our homes, we have it in our jobs and in our communities. And so I think that we need to exercise that influence. That word influence comes from the same word for influenza. And so we have the ability to influence and infect with what we have. And in this time frame, because of the coronavirus, we've had to be socially distant. But I think that we can't afford to be morally distant in this time, that those of us who know and serve the living God, we can't have impact without contact. And so we have to go and we have to engage our family, engage this community, and we have to infect and influence, not with our words or with our message, but the message of God. And so we shouldn't take for granted the role and responsibility that we have. God is putting a burden, I believe, in all of our hearts to do something. For the professor was to start a page. And he's given him the ability to do those things. And so when we have those burdens and we have the ability, there's a response that's required. That's where responsibility comes in, that when he gives us the burden and he's equipped us with the ability to relieve that burden, then we have to take responsibility and to be able to move forward. And so I would end not with my words, but with God's words from 2 Chronicles 7:14. It says, if my people who are called by my name would humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways and seek my face, I will forgive them and I will heal their land. Those of us that know Christ, he said, if my people. And so it's not a requirement for those that don't know him. Those that don't know him need us to cry out to God on their behalf. That's our role. That's our responsibility. That's the influence that we have. And that's the healing that we've referred to before, that can only come from our Creator. And so I'm encouraged today by this discussion. I'm encouraged by those that have shared. And I believe that this is just the beginning. As my brother Gerald said, this is the beginning. The best is yet to come. But we must put God first. We must go back to the beginning. In the beginning was God. And when we get back to the beginning, we understand not only who we are, to understand our history, but we understand ourselves better when we understand whose we are. And so thank you for the opportunity to be able to share and participate in this great discussion today.
Pastor, I want to thank you because I know that you took a moment to say, okay, God, is this what I should do? What should I? You said to me when I said, hey, can you come on? And I'm always used to people like, yeah, I'm coming on. You're like, let me pray about it and I'll get back to you. And I was like, yes, man of prayer and a man of God. Thank you for your ministry. And we're praying blessings and increase, and that your ministry will. I love how you said we can't have impact without contact. And the word influence has its roots in influenza. I think that's what you said. But
yes.
It's the fact of the matter is we can infect the world around us, not with anything of ourselves, but with the word of God. This, I see a bunch of people jumped on here at the end of the discussion. Where were you guys 30 minutes ago? But that's okay. If you're tuned in now, it's a good time because I want to share some things with you. First, I need you to hit the share button down below. Hit the share button. This morning we had a town hall. We were talking about race relations, racism, our experiences, our hurting hearts. And really, we even had some folks on here who are leaders in the community talk about what steps we can take as individuals to start the process of change. So it's been a great discussion, but also I want you to hit share so that someone else can see this and share it. And then you can also put someone's name in the comments, and that will alert them to come and watch the replay. Subscribe at candybryan.com. You know, I've been doing this for going on 4 years. I started the podcast after my battle with cancer. And I said, now that I've got a second chance of life at life, I'm going to grab life and I'm going to run with whatever purpose I was sitting on. My encouragement for you this morning is each and every one of you have been designed and created with a very unique purpose. I mean, our first purpose is to love God and to share the good news, to come to faith in Christ and to share that message. But then we have something that we're called to do. And so I want to really encourage you this morning to activate, to get active, to seek God first. I started a hashtag, pray, then act, which is what Pastor did this morning. He's like, I'm going to pray first before I jump into this. But pray, then act is because a lot of us feel enraged. We're hurting. We want to do something. But I'm telling you, we will go amiss. All of our actions and our efforts will be in vain if we haven't first sought the face of God. And thank you for closing with that scripture in Chronicles. I will post that, Pastor, because he says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face. That's the first requirement. So let's do that, you guys. Thank you for tuning in this morning. I hope this was a helpful discussion. We'll be back next Tuesday for another town hall. Thank you to my guests. You guys have a wonderful day. Tune in tomorrow morning, 7:45 a.m. We are doing, so that you guys know, we are doing for the whole month, believers in the industry, in the spotlight, in the entertainment industry, Christian films. And we have this Thursday, you guys are going to laugh. Hopefully you laugh. We have a very funny lady, Victoria Jackson. Any of you guys know Victoria Jackson? She used to be on Saturday Night Live many, many, many years ago. Victoria is also a survivor, sister survivor of breast cancer, but she has turned her life over to Christ, and she has been sold out for Jesus for many years. And she will be with us on Thursday. Victoria Jackson, the wonderful woman. She still has her funny, but she also has Jesus now. And it's just wonderful to see her new life. All right, let's get the Good Morning Show music going here. And I will say goodbye to my guests this morning. I will be reaching out to you to hopefully join in our discussions in the future. You guys go subscribe at candybryan.com for podcasts, daily inspiration, and share the show. Bye, you guys. Until next time, have a great day.